Okay, I'm pretty stoked. I'm going to do a quick video of my new setup. I've built a room on the back of my house to house my solar stuff and my batteries. We're getting in the beginning of winter, so I wanted to get this stuff outside. Before anybody says anything about mixed batteries, yes, I know you're not supposed to mix them, but I have them, and I'm going to use them temporarily until I finish getting the Trojan batteries you see here. I have two battery banks, and both of them are connected together. The back one, the Duracell batteries, they're GC2s, they're 100 amp hour, 6 volt. I've got them in 4 sets of 4 batteries for 24 volts, gives me roughly 400 amp hours for that bank. And then I just purchased 8 L16 EACs, which are 370 amp hour at 6 volts. I've got those in 2 banks parallel together. This battery bank for a total gives me 1140 amp hours, or 1170, one of those two, connected all together. I've got the battery lifesaver hooked up to both banks, and over here in the corner there's a little fan that blows out to the bottom of the house. And then on this side there's an intake, so it pulls air, room temperature air into the bank, keeps the batteries pretty much at room temperature, if not a little less. You can see there's a seal all the way across the top. This is usually sealed off. I got it coming out right there. There's my quick disconnect. I just disconnect it from there. And then this is my new setup for my solar. I've purchased the 4,000 watt 24 volt Ames inverter. It's been running for about 2 months now. Totally happy with it. Doesn't get hot. You'll see a black wire hanging off of it. That's the one I run out to the generator when I want just to charge the batteries. It has a 100 amp charger built into it, but I'll explain some of the components. That's my inverter charger, of course. That charges the batteries, switches over to generator power while it's charging the batteries. And then right next to it is my Midnight Solar Classic 200. That has both my solar arrays. It's 4 250 watt panels per array. I have them coming in. They're 36 volt, 8 amp panels. I have each 4 banks running series to make 100 and something volts at 8 amps. And then I have both those coming in on separate 10 gauge wires up here. So I have 16 amps coming into the bank at 136, I think it's usually what it is. Right now we're getting 1100 watts in. We're on absorb. My battery bank's at 94. It's just now reading this huge bank, so I'm not quite sure it knows what to make of it. But from the Classic, those 2 breakers right there, those are for each solar bank. Then the breaker above it is for the Classic itself. And then coming over to this box, I haven't really moved the panel for the Ames inverter yet. I'm going to mount that somewhere, probably in the kitchen. But this box right here contains 2 300 watt dump load capacitors. And this is really set up for a wind turbine, which my wind turbine's pretty much shot. I got to get a new one, so it's out of commission. I need to get a new brake too. It broke. The top left corner of this, where you see that hole, that's where the wind turbine brake goes. And then, of course, I got a breaker for the dump loads, a breaker for the turbine, breaker for the charger, and then an extra breaker for my 24 volt that goes into my house. My house is a hybrid. It has 12 volt outlets. All my light bulbs are 12 volt bulbs, but they run off 24 volt circuit. I got them running in series to make the 24 volt. That piece right there, that's standard Panduit they use for networking. It's very expensive, but it makes the system look really clean. I think for a 6-foot stick of it, I paid about 90 bucks. but it did wonders on making the system look clean. Right there's my breakers to my house power. I've got one that pretty much powers the whole house, one that powers my well pump, and then one that powers this closet that I built on. And then next to that, those two boxes, one's a positive and one's a negative box. That's where everything is split. You can see them coming up. All the gauges right there, all the meters right there, I should say, they're just they're hooked up to 100 amp shunts inside of the box itself, and they just judge or display loads going to the inverter, loads going to just the 24 to the house, and loads going from the Classic. Right next to that is my D-Mark for my DSL. That is the only thing I am on grid with, is internet. And below that you can see the grounding rods and everything, or grounding bank. But this is my new system. I'm still going to add some more. I've got to add a breaker for the generator and permanently fix that. Right next to it's where we got our hot water heater and everything, which I've got to do some work on that wall, but that'll come whenever I go to finish this room. I just wanted to really get my solar setup in here. But that's it. Huge battery bank. We've been living for 2 years off 400 amp hours, which last us, we would burn them down probably to about 70 to 60% every night. And that's just doing standard stuff. We run a full-size refrigerator, full-size freezer, Xbox, projectors, 49-inch TV, toaster, microwave, and pretty much I can run, and a full-size well pump, 10 amp well pump, and I can run pretty much everything off this 4,000 watt inverter. Maybe not all at the same time, but pretty close. If you want to see my water system, just look on my page for the off-grid water system, rain collection system. Other than that, if you got any questions, just leave them in the comments below. Thank you.